It was supposed to be an ordinary weekend. My parents had gone to my aunt's place 2 towns over for her birthday, and I had the house to myself for 2 nights. I was 19 then, taking a gap year before college, working part-time at a gas station. I was used to being alone. I actually liked it. The silence, the sense of control. But that weekend changed everything I thought I knew about being alone. The first night started off normal. I ordered pizza, watched some dumb horror movie online, and laughed at the jump scares. It was around 11:30 p.m. when I noticed the first sound, a dull thud coming from somewhere behind the walls. Not loud, just enough to make me lower the TV volume. It wasn't pipes. I knew how those sounded in our old house. This was slower, like someone softly knocking. I brushed it off, assuming maybe a raccoon had gotten into the crawl space again. We'd had that problem before. I turned the TV back up and forgot about it. But a few minutes later, I heard it again. 3 knocks, evenly spaced, like a rhythm someone was deliberately making. Thunk, thunk, thunk. This time it came from the wall behind the couch, the interior wall that separated the living room from the hallway. My body went cold. There shouldn't be anything inside that wall. It wasn't an exterior wall, no space for animals, no pipes. I muted the TV completely and sat there holding my breath. Nothing, just silence. I told myself I was being stupid, turned the TV off, and went upstairs to my room. I remember laughing at myself for letting my imagination run wild. But as I lay in bed, scrolling through my phone, the sound came back. This time it was in my room. Tap, tap, tap. I froze. The sound was coming from inside the wall near my closet. Slow, deliberate. I felt my heart thudding in my chest. I tried to tell myself it was a mouse, but the knocks were spaced too far apart. They had weight. It sounded like knuckles. I got out of bed, trying to keep my footsteps quiet, and pressed my ear against the wall. The air was cold there. It shouldn't have been. It was summer and the AC was off. I listened. Nothing. Then from inside the wall, something scraped. Long, slow, dragging fingernails on drywall. I stumbled backward so fast I hit my desk chair and nearly fell. My breathing was loud, too loud. I was shaking. It was almost midnight and my rational brain was fighting hard to explain it away. Pipes, animals, anything. But I knew that sound. That intentional dragging. That was human. I didn't sleep that night. I kept my lamp on, sitting in bed with a baseball bat next to me, waiting for another sound. At around 3 a.m., it stopped. Silence. I finally drifted off sometime before sunrise. The next morning, I convinced myself it had all been a dream. Maybe I'd imagined it half asleep. I even laughed about it when I texted my friend Josh, who joked that my house was haunted and I should move out. The second night, I decided to stay up late again, just to prove to myself it was nothing. I had all the lights on downstairs, music playing low, my laptop open. For a few hours, everything was fine. I relaxed. I started thinking maybe I'd been stressed out from work, that the house noises had gotten to me. Then, around 1:15 a.m., it started again, 3 knocks, but this time, they came from the floor, thud, thud, thud. I froze mid-sentence, staring at the spot between the couch and the coffee table. The sound was directly beneath me, like someone knocking from under the floorboards. We didn't have a basement, only a shallow crawl space. I leaned forward, my breath shaky, and tapped the floor with my knuckles. For a moment, nothing happened. Then after 3 seconds, it knocked back. Thud, thud, thud. I don't think I've ever moved so fast in my life. I jumped up, grabbed my phone, and called my dad. It rang and rang, then went to voicemail. I tried again, same thing. I texted him that I was hearing noises in the floor, but he didn't reply. They were probably asleep. I thought about calling the cops, but what would I say? Someone's knocking from inside my walls? They'd think I was on drugs, so I did something incredibly stupid. I decided to check. I grabbed a flashlight, went outside through the back door, and crouched near the side of the house. The crawl space opening was sealed with an old wooden hatch, the kind you had to pry open. I hadn't been down there since I was a kid helping my dad fix a pipe. The dirt was damp under my shoes as I lifted the hatch. A rush of cold, stale air hit me, like something that hadn't seen daylight in years. I shined the light inside, dust, cobwebs, pipes, nothing else. I was about to close it when I saw something move. A shadow flickered against the far wall of the crawl space. I jerked the light toward it, but there was nothing. Just a concrete wall. Then I heard it. A single loud knock from behind that wall. I stumbled back, dropped the hatch, and sprinted into the house. I locked every door, every window, and sat with my back against the front door, clutching the baseball bat again. I didn't sleep that night either. By morning, I was exhausted. My parents were due back that afternoon, and I was desperate for company. I just needed to make it through a few more hours. But around noon, I noticed something new. In the hallway just outside my bedroom, there was a small crack in the drywall. It hadn't been there before. At first, I thought it was a shadow, but when I touched it, I realized it was a hole, a clean puncture, maybe the size of a pencil, and around the edge of it, faint gray smudges. Like fingerprints, I backed away. The hole was right where I'd heard the first knocking 2 nights ago. I wanted to leave the house, but something in me, curiosity, fear, whatever, made me get closer. I bent down and put my ear near the hole. I don't know why I did it. Maybe I just wanted to prove there was nothing there. For a moment, I heard nothing. Then so faintly I thought I imagined it, I heard breathing. Slow, raspy, wet breathing. I screamed and stumbled backward, knocking a picture frame off the wall. I ran outside and didn't come back in until my parents pulled into the driveway 3 hours later. When I told my dad what happened, he laughed it off, said the old house creaks and shifts. Maybe a rat got trapped in the wall. He checked the crawl space, banged on the drywall, and said there was nothing weird. I could tell he didn't believe me. That night, they went to bed around 10. I tried to sleep too, but I couldn't stop staring at that tiny hole in the hallway wall. I covered it with duct tape and left my bedroom light on. At 2:47 a.m., I woke up to the tape peeling. I sat up in bed, heart hammering, as a slow scratching sound came from the hallway. The sound of something clawing through drywall. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. The scratching stopped, and then came the knock. One single, heavy thud, and then silence. I must have blacked out at some point, because the next thing I remember is sunlight hitting my face. The hole was still there. The tape had been peeled back from the inside. I told my parents again, begged them to call someone, but they said I was sleep-deprived, imagining things. My mom even suggested therapy. But 3 nights later, my dad called me from work in the middle of his night shift. He sounded off. He said, "Hey, bud, did you make any holes in the drywall downstairs?" I told him no, and he went quiet for a second. Then he said, "Because there's a new one, big enough to stick your hand through." I didn't answer. He said he thought he saw something move inside. The line went dead after that. When I got home that night, the new hole was there, near the floor by the living room. The edges were jagged, like something pushed through from the inside. My dad wouldn't talk about it. My mom wouldn't even go near it. They called a contractor the next day to patch it up. 2 days later, the contractor quit halfway through. He said he'd never seen insulation packed that weirdly tight before, that it smelled wrong, and that there were handprints inside the wall cavity. He didn't come back. We sold the house a month later. The new owners moved in right before winter. I drove by once just to see it. Everything looked the same, except the drywall near the front window. You could see faint outlines where holes had been patched, but new ones had formed. I swear, as I drove away, I saw something move behind the living room curtain, something pale, thin, with long fingers pressing against the glass. I don't think it was watching me. I think it was waiting. I used to think paranoia was something that only existed in stories, that feeling of being watched, the sense that someone was just outside your line of sight. I thought that was something that happened to people with overactive imaginations. Then during one cold February weekend when I was home alone, I learned that paranoia isn't always wrong. Sometimes it's your brain's last desperate way of keeping you alive. My parents had gone to my grandmother's place out of state. I had the house to myself for 5 nights. It wasn't a big deal. I was 21, used to being alone, and kind of enjoyed it. The house was a small 1-story place surrounded by trees and a big open backyard that led straight into the woods. At night, it got pitch black out there. You couldn't see a thing beyond the glass once the lights were off inside. That first night was fine. I made dinner, watched a movie, scrolled my phone for a few hours, and went to bed around midnight. I remember standing by the kitchen sink before going to sleep, looking out at the dark backyard. My reflection looked back at me in the glass, and behind it, just an infinite void of black trees and silence. It was quiet. Too quiet in hindsight. The second night, things changed. It was around 11 p.m., and I was watching something on YouTube when I heard a sound from the backyard. Not an animal, not the rustling kind of noise that raccoons or deer make. This was a crunch like a heavy boot on frozen grass, then another. Slow, measured. I paused the video and listened. Nothing. Just the faint hum of the refrigerator and the ticking clock. I got up, walked to the window, and pulled the curtain back just a little. The backyard was empty. The motion sensor light didn't come on, which meant whatever it was hadn't come close enough to trigger it. I stared into the black for a while, then laughed at myself and went back to the couch. A few minutes later, I heard it again, closer this time. Crunch, crunch. I muted the TV. The sound came from just beyond the window. I turned off the living room light and stood there in the dark, staring out. My eyes slowly adjusted until I could make out faint outlines of trees swaying in the distance. Then just for a second I saw something. A shape, not moving, just standing near the edge of the yard. A tall figure still and watching. My heart nearly stopped. I blinked and it was gone. Maybe it was never there. Maybe it was just my reflection. That's what I told myself. I went to bed uneasy, checking every door and window twice before turning out the lights. I didn't sleep much. Every little creak and groan of the house felt amplified. Around 3 a.m., I heard something brush against the side of the house. A soft dragging sound like someone running their hand along the wall outside my bedroom. Then a faint tap on the window, just one. I sat up in bed, eyes wide open, staring at the dark outline of my blinds. Another tap. My throat went dry. I whispered, "Who's there?" Stupid thing to say. No answer, of course. The tapping stopped. I stayed up until morning, clutching a kitchen knife under the blanket. When sunlight finally came through, I checked outside. No footprints. No signs of anyone. But on the glass near the corner of my bedroom window, there was a single greasy handprint. Too big to be mine. Too high up for a child. I stared at it for a long time, my stomach twisting. The fingers were long, unnaturally long. I wiped it away and told myself someone must have left it there days ago. Maybe the window cleaner, maybe me from outside. I tried to believe that, but I couldn't shake the feeling that someone had stood there, inches away from my sleeping face in the middle of the night. The next evening, I made sure every light in the backyard was on. I even left the porch light burning and closed every curtain in the house. Around midnight, I was watching TV again when I heard it. The faint click of the back gate opening. My blood ran cold. I muted the TV and listened. Footsteps again, this time unmistakably human. The motion sensor light flicked on, flooding the yard in harsh white light. I ran to the window and peeked through a slit in the curtain. Nothing. The yard was empty. The light stayed on for 30 seconds, then clicked off. The moment it went dark, I saw it. A flash of movement, someone darting across the yard, low to the ground. I couldn't see their face, just a silhouette, quick and jerky, disappearing behind the shed. I backed away from the window and grabbed my phone. I called the cops. They said they'd send a patrol car, told me to stay inside and keep the doors locked. I waited, staring out the window with my hands shaking. 10 minutes later, red and blue lights flashed across the living room walls. 2 officers checked the yard, the shed, the gate. Nothing. No footprints, no signs of entry, no damage. They said it was probably an animal triggering the sensor. I could tell they didn't believe me. They told me to call again if anything else happened and left. That night, I slept on the couch with all the lights on. The third night, I decided to record everything. I set up my phone against the kitchen window facing the backyard and hit record before going to bed. Around 2:30 a.m., I woke up to a strange sound, a static. My phone was vibrating on the counter. When I looked at the screen, the camera app was frozen, the image all snowy and distorted. It shouldn't have been possible. It was just recording video, not streaming. I played back what it had captured before freezing. The video showed the dark backyard. Nothing for the first few minutes. Then around the 2-hour mark, the motion light came on. For about 5 seconds, you could clearly see someone standing there. A man. Thin, tall, wearing dark clothes, his face turned toward the window. He wasn't moving. He wasn't even blinking, just staring. Then the light went out and he was gone. The video ended with static. My chest tightened as I watched it again and again. That wasn't my imagination. That wasn't some reflection. Someone had been there, watching. I called the cops again and showed them the video. They took it seriously this time. One of them walked me through the house, checking locks, inspecting windows. He said they'd patrol the area through the night. But after they left, I noticed something. The back door's deadbolt was unlocked. I know I locked it. I locked it in front of them. I felt sick. I pushed the bolt back in, double-checked every door again, and tried to calm down. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. That night, I slept with a kitchen knife again. Around 3 a.m., I woke up to the sound of the floor creaking in the hallway. Slow, careful steps. Not the kind of creak a house makes when it settles. The deliberate rhythm of someone walking barefoot. I sat up, heart pounding so hard it hurt, and strained to listen. The footsteps stopped right outside the living room door. I could see the faint shadow under the doorframe, 2 feet. Then the handle turned just slightly. I almost screamed. I gripped the knife, holding my breath. The handle stopped moving. For a few seconds, the silence was unbearable. Then from behind the door came a whisper. Low, raspy. I saw you. I bolted upright, shouting, and the sound of feet sprinting down the hallway filled the house. I ran after it, flipping lights on as I went. Nothing. The front door was still locked. The windows were closed. There was nowhere for anyone to go. I called 911 again, shaking so hard I could barely hold the phone. They came, searched the house top to bottom, found no one. They said maybe I'd dreamt it, that stress and lack of sleep could cause vivid hallucinations. I showed them the video again, but they said it wasn't clear enough to identify anything. When they left, I felt more alone than ever. The next morning, I noticed the back gate was open again. I walked out to close it, and that's when I saw them. Footprints in the frost. Bare feet, not shoes. Human feet. They led from the edge of the woods straight up to the back door and stopped there. I followed them back toward the trees, but halfway there, they just stopped. Like the person had vanished into thin air. No prints leading away. No sign of anything. That night, I decided I was done being afraid. I borrowed my friend's trail camera, the kind used for hunting, and set it up facing the yard. I even left the back light off, hoping to catch whoever it was. I didn't sleep, just waited. Around 2 a.m., I heard it again. The sound of footsteps on the grass, the soft creak of the gate. I turned off all the lights, crouched by the window, and peeked through the curtain. There he was, standing about 10 feet from the glass, facing directly at me. A tall man, his clothes filthy, his skin pale under the faint moonlight. His eyes were wrong. Too wide, too dark. He didn't move. Didn't blink. Just stared. I wanted to scream, but my body wouldn't listen. I felt paralyzed, like something was holding me there. Then he smiled. It wasn't a normal smile. His mouth stretched too far, the skin around his lips cracking. I stumbled backward and fell, hitting my head on the table. When I looked again, he was gone. The motion light flicked on a few seconds later, but the yard was empty. When the sun rose, I checked the trail camera footage. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the SD card. I plugged it into my laptop. The first few clips showed the empty yard, then one from around 2:06 a.m., the motion light triggering. For one frame, you could see him, the same man, standing in the exact same position, but his face was inches from the camera lens. His eyes stared directly into it, and his mouth was open, like he was whispering something. Behind him, barely visible, was a second figure, smaller, crouched, almost childlike, with a distorted face and too many teeth. The video cut off there. I threw up. When my sister asked me to house sit for her and watch her baby for the weekend, I didn't hesitate. She and her husband had just bought a small house in a quiet neighborhood outside town, and they needed someone to stay while they visited his parents. It was supposed to be simple: feed the baby, keep the house tidy, and crash on the couch for 2 nights. Nothing about that seemed like it would leave scars I'd carry for the rest of my life. They left early Friday morning, giving me the rundown: bottles in the fridge, spare diapers in the cabinet, emergency numbers on the counter. The baby, Noah, was only 6 months old, quiet and easy. They had one of those fancy baby monitor systems with a little screen that showed the crib in night vision. I'd never used one before, but it seemed simple enough. The first day was fine. I played with Noah, watched TV, and made dinner. The house had that freshly painted smell, still new and a little sterile. Every sound echoed slightly in the halls. I noticed how quiet it got at night. No traffic, no barking dogs. Just this deep suburban stillness that felt almost unnatural. Around 11 p.m., I put Noah in his crib upstairs, turned on the monitor, and went down to the living room. The monitor sat on the coffee table, its faint green glow illuminating the empty crib. I watched for a while, half expecting some jump scare like in those horror movies, but eventually I laughed at myself and turned the volume low. I dozed off watching TV. At around 2:13 a.m., I woke up to a soft static noise. The TV was off. The sound was coming from the baby monitor. I rubbed my eyes, leaned forward, and looked at the screen. The crib was empty. For a split second, my brain couldn't process it. Empty, no baby. Just the dim outline of the crib bars in grainy black and white. I jumped up, heart racing, and ran upstairs to the nursery. The light from the hallway spilled across the crib. Noah was there and sleeping soundly right where he should be. I stared at him for a long moment, then looked back at the monitor's camera mounted on the shelf. The little red light was on. I exhaled, feeling stupid. Maybe the feed had glitched. Maybe the camera had lagged. I checked the connections, everything looked fine. I went back downstairs. When I looked at the monitor again, the crib was still empty. My breath caught in my throat. The image didn't change even when I walked into the room again. I waved my hand in front of the camera, but on the monitor, nothing. Still empty. I unplugged the monitor and plugged it back in. After a few seconds, it blinked to life. The crib was back. Noah was there. That's when I noticed something else, the timestamp. It said 2:06 a.m., but my phone said 2:24 a.m. The feed wasn't live. It was playing something recorded. I stared at the screen, confusion turning to dread. The monitor wasn't supposed to have a recording feature. My sister never mentioned anything about that. I tried pressing buttons, but the menu didn't respond. The screen just stayed frozen on that image. Noah asleep in his crib, time stamped from almost 20 minutes ago. Then the picture flickered. For less than a second, something else appeared. Not the crib. A different room, dark, bare walls. A shape moving near the corner. I couldn't make it out clearly before the feed switched back to the nursery. I told myself it was interference. Maybe someone nearby had the same model. Maybe signals were crossing. That made sense, right? I turned off the monitor and tried to sleep, but I couldn't shake that flicker from my head. The next morning, I told my sister over the phone. She laughed it off, said, "Oh, that thing acts up sometimes, just reset it if it's weird." I wanted to push further to say how off it felt, but she was already distracted with her in-laws. I dropped it. That night, I made sure to check every lock before bed. I left a light on in the hallway upstairs. When I turned on the monitor, Noah was sleeping peacefully. I tried to ignore the faint static hum. At 1:47 a.m., I woke again. Not from noise this time, from the absence of it. The monitor wasn't humming. It was dead silent. I sat up and looked at it. The screen was black. I tapped the side, nothing. Then after a few seconds, it turned on by itself. The image that appeared wasn't the nursery. It was a close-up of someone's face. Grainy. Pale. The eyes wide open, staring straight into the camera. I screamed and dropped the monitor, the screen shattering against the floor. I grabbed my phone, ran upstairs, heart hammering. The nursery door was closed. I turned the knob slowly, my hands trembling. Noah was fine, asleep, breathing steady. The camera above him had been turned, not by much, but enough that it wasn't pointing directly at the crib anymore. I could see the tiny red light glowing. I unplugged it, shoved it into the closet, and took Noah into the guest room with me. I locked the door and sat there till dawn, every creak of the house making me jump. When the sun finally came up, I called my sister again. This time she didn't laugh. She got quiet. After a long pause, she said, "That's not possible. The camera's wired into the wall. It doesn't move." I told her it did. I told her what I saw. She said she'd call the company that installed it. Later that day, she texted me. "They said that model doesn't have wireless access. It can't connect to anything external." I didn't know what to say to that. I wanted to tell her I wasn't imagining it, but deep down I could feel something wasn't right. The house felt heavier, like the air was pressing down on me. I decided I'd stay one more night and then leave early. That evening, I noticed something strange near the baby's closet. The carpet was slightly darker in a square patch, maybe 2 feet across, like it had been recently lifted or replaced. I knelt down and pressed on it. The floor sounded hollow. I moved the crib aside and pulled at the carpet edge. Underneath was a wooden hatch. I hesitated, then lifted it. Below was a narrow crawl space about 4 feet deep, leading into pitch darkness. It smelled damp and stale, like wet earth and old metal. I shined my phone light down, but the beam didn't reach the end. I closed the hatch immediately and pushed the crib back. I didn't want to know what was under there. That night, everything was silent until around 3 a.m. I was half asleep on the couch, Noah's crib beside me, when I heard the faintest whisper. It came from the monitor, the cracked one. I hadn't even realized it was still on. The screen flickered, showing static and faint movement. Then I heard it again. A voice. Soft. Slow. "He's awake." I turned to the crib. Noah was asleep. My mouth went dry. On the monitor, the image shifted. The crib seen from above, but there was something standing beside it. A tall, shadowy figure, not moving, just watching. I looked up from the monitor, nothing there. But the screen showed the figure still standing. And then it moved. Slowly, toward the door. I backed away, clutching Noah to my chest, whispering, "No, no, no." The front door suddenly creaked, loud like it was opening. I ran into the bathroom and locked the door. I sat there on the floor holding Noah, listening to the house breathe. The floorboards creaked slowly, footsteps dragging. I could hear breathing outside the bathroom door. Long, deep, wet breaths. Then a whisper. "You shouldn't have opened it." I think I blacked out after that. When I woke up, sunlight was streaming through the small bathroom window. Noah was still in my arms, sleeping. The house was quiet again. I checked every door, every window. Nothing was broken. Nothing out of place. Except the hatch in the nursery. It was open. I looked down into it, heart racing. The smell was stronger now. I could see something at the far end, a shape. I leaned closer, trying to see what it was, when suddenly, the monitor in the living room turned on by itself. I ran to it. The screen flickered, and then the video feed showed me, standing over the open hatch, looking down. Then, behind me in the video, a hand reached up from the darkness. I dropped the monitor and turned. Nothing there. The hatch was empty, just blackness. I called my sister and told her I couldn't stay. I packed Noah's bag, grabbed the car keys, and left without looking back. That night, my sister called me crying. She said when she and her husband got home, the house was fine except for one thing, the baby monitor. It was turned back on, and on the screen was that same static, that same timestamp, 2:06 a.m. Except this time, the crib was empty, and faintly in the corner of the screen, a face was watching. Not Noah's, not mine, something else. They moved out a month later. A few weeks after that, I got a package in the mail. No return address. Inside was the baby monitor. No, just the monitor. I threw it in the trash. That night, at exactly 2:06 a.m., my phone lit up on the nightstand. It was a video notification from an unknown number. I opened it. The video showed a crib in black and white. And me. Standing over it watching.